analyst, Dr. Brzezinski. Very good to have you with us. Former National Security Advisor, and of course the father to our own Mika Brzezinski, Dr. Brzezinski. Doctor, I would say that is a mitigating factor for you. On the balance sheet, your daughter works next to me every day. And I know. Sorry, that's Dad. A shame of the family, but at least you called the war right. So you predicted perfectly what was going to happen 5 years ago on the night that the attack was launched. Get your crystal ball out again and tell us, where do we go from here? What is the best option when we have a lot of very bad options in front of us?
I think we have to recognize that we are bogged down in Iraq, and we're not only bogged down, we are part of the problem of Iraq, in the sense that our presence in Iraq is contributing to the continuing fragmentation of Iraqi society and eventually of the Iraqi state. And thus we have no choice but to disengage. But we have to disengage intelligently, not only militarily, but try to create a political framework in the region that can mitigate against any of the destabilizing consequences of an American departure. So it will require real statesmanship and leadership with a vision. And I think we know which candidates, because we are in the presidential year, are the ones that have pointed more clearly in the direction that we should be heading, and did so early on.
So, Dad, you talk about disengaging intelligently. When you look at the three candidates at play right now, can anyone really truly make an honest assessment as to how long we will be there?
I think it's not a question of assessment, it's a question of a decision. Mr. McCain has clearly indicated he's going to continue the war until there is some sort of a victory, however that is defined, and the definition keeps changing. And the victory is a little bit like the horizon. That is to say, it's an imaginary objective which recedes as you walk towards it. Senator Clinton voted for the war. And when she voted for the war, she not only endorsed the charges that there are weapons of mass destruction, she even echoed Vice President Cheney's line that Saddam has been helping al-Qaeda. She exactly said that, and then went on to say that with conviction, therefore, she supports the resolution, which was a resolution to use force. Obama was the only one who stood out at the time and argued more or less the way you cited me, namely that we're getting into something that's going to be self-destructive, that will bog us down, that will cost us incredibly in money, in blood, which is more important, in our international standing. So it requires a really comprehensive, transcendental type decision to disengage.
Wait, so is that the reason, is that one of the main reasons you were one of the first the first giant of foreign policy, U.S. foreign policy, to endorse Barack Obama? Did it center around the decision that he made to oppose the war?
Yes, I think that was the first reason. But then secondly, I began to sense something in him that we have also seen lately, that he is one of those people who understands the changes that take place historically. You know, most people understand change only retroactively, after it has happened. It takes more of a perspective, a deep perspective, to understand that something fundamental is actually changing. And he has been, in a sense, redefining the meaning of security in the 21st century, that we can't do it simply relying on force. He's doing it again on the race issue, in which he's trying to transcend the history of the last 300 years and to point the way towards an altogether new racial relationship, for which he's being attacked by techniques which imply to me guilt by association, this continuous juxtaposition on television of him and of Reverend Wright. And more importantly, in terms of the American system, he's saying that we are kind of gridlocked, and that we have to have a new coalition in America that shapes up the political system so that it is capable of addressing its fundamental shortcomings. And the economy is a reflection of that, because the economy is not only stumbling, but the economy reflects fundamental social injustices in America. The rich have gotten richer, the poor have gotten poorer, the gaps have widened, and the system is unresponsive.
Dr. Brzezinski, it's Tucker Carlson. I wonder what you make of Hillary Clinton's point made over and over again that Barack Obama just has no experience, and we've taken this flyer on a president 8 years ago who had no international experience, no foreign policy experience, and that's been a disaster, and we can't afford to do that again. What's the response to that?
Well, I sort of don't take that very seriously. She says she's been to 80 countries on trips. My travel agent has been to 150 countries on trips. That doesn't make him qualified to be president. She says she spent 35 years working for the public. Well, if you look very closely, that's 35 years since she left law school. She spent a lot of time, essentially, lobbying, dealing, enrichment, and public service. It's a combination of all of these, but there is certainly not one that stands out as decisive. Look, if John Kennedy, who was running for the presidency in 1960, when Eisenhower couldn't run again, if he had been running not against Nixon, but against Mamie Eisenhower, would someone say that Mamie Eisenhower is better prepared to be president than John Kennedy? I mean, being the wife of a president doesn't make you ready to be president.
I stand back in awe.
Yeah.
I stand back in awe. You have just, I wish we had a Clinton surrogate on so we could see the shade of that person's face. I think it would be crimson. It's devastating.
Travel agents and Mamie Eisenhower is right somewhere. Jamie Rubin is in a fetal position. Let me ask you about the Middle East right now. Obviously, you know it better than most Americans. You spent a great deal of your time in public service trying to broker peace in the Middle East. What's happening over there 5 years later? I understand that the war has caused a lot of problems, but you have a region that has seen the failure of Arabism, nationalism, socialism, and perhaps now extremism. Do you see anything that happened in Lebanon in 2005 or in Iraq with the elections that suggest that this region may be moving away from the tyranny that it's experienced over the past, past 300 years through colonial
Well, look, the
rule?
region to change has to evolve on its own, and its own culture has to adapt. You don't change a region by injecting a foreign army and pulverizing a state and then saying that you are, in fact, nurturing democracy. I think we have to be helpful, but we have to avoid actions that inflame the region. This is why it's very important to try to bring the war in Iraq to an end. It's equally important to help the Israelis and the Palestinians reach peace, because their conflict not only inflames the region, but is devastating for the Israelis and for the Palestinians. And in different ways, there is suffering on both sides. And if we can step in some fashion, broker a compromise between the Israelis and the Palestinians, for which, incidentally, the public opinions on both sides in Israel and among the Palestinians is far more ready than many people in this country realize, then we can really contribute to a much more stable Middle East.